Commander Velthak pressed his four eyes closer to the display screen. The monitoring station had been watching Earth for over 300 years, and in all that time, the blue planet had never said a single word back to the galaxy. Every other world they discovered eventually started talking, sending messages, asking questions, wanting to trade or fight or make friends. But Earth just sat there, quiet as a stone. "Sir, something's happening," said Lieutenant Krixtal from her station. Her green scales shimmered as she worked the controls faster than usual. "I'm getting a signal from the Sol system." Velthak's tail twitched with excitement. Finally, after all these years, the humans were going to introduce themselves to the galaxy. He imagined what they might say, maybe a greeting, or questions about other worlds, or requests for help with their technology. The message came through clear and strong, but it wasn't what anyone expected. "The hunters you've been hiding from have found us. We'll handle this. Stay quiet." Velthak stared at the words on his screen. Hunters? What hunters? And how could the humans handle anything? Their planet barely had space travel. They couldn't even leave their own star system properly. "Lieutenant, run a full scan of that message. Check the mathematics, the encryption, everything." Krixtal's claws clicked against her control panel as she worked. After a few minutes, her eyes went wide. "Sir, this is impossible. The math in this message is more advanced than anything we have. The encryption uses quantum patterns that our best computers can barely understand." "That can't be right. Earth is a primitive world. They only just figured out nuclear power a few centuries ago." "I've checked it 5 times, sir. This message comes from technology that's decades ahead of ours." Before Velthak could respond, every screen in the monitoring station started flashing, red warnings. The communication networks that connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy were experiencing interference like nothing they'd ever seen. "What's causing this?" Velthak demanded. "I don't know, sir. It's like something is jamming every long-range signal in the galaxy at once." Far away in the Sol system, Captain Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of a ship that officially didn't exist. The Earth defense ship Silent Guardian hung in twisted space, invisible to every sensor the galaxy possessed. Around him, his crew worked at stations that used technology the rest of the galaxy thought was impossible. "Sir," the message was delivered, reported Lieutenant Park Min-ho. "The Galactic Council received our warning." Tae-ho nodded. He looked older than his 40 years, carrying the weight of secrets that could save or destroy everything. "Good. How much time do we have?" "The deep space monitors show 18 months before they reach the outer edge of the galaxy." 18 months. Tae-ho repeated the words quietly. For over 300 years, humanity had stayed silent while building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. They'd watched civilizations rise and fall, always staying hidden, always preparing for this day. "Sir, should we begin Operation Silent Storm?" "Not yet. First, we need to see if the other species will listen to our warning. If they keep using their communication networks, the Devourers will track them down even faster." Through the ship's impossible viewing screens, Tae-ho could see Earth in the distance. It looked peaceful and quiet, just like it had for centuries. But hidden beneath that calm surface were weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. Humanity had spent every day since 2089 preparing for war against an enemy the rest of the galaxy didn't even know existed. "Captain, we're receiving signals from the monitoring stations. They're confused about our message." "Of course they are. They think we're primitive because that's what we wanted them to think." Tae-ho walked to the command chair, his footsteps silent on the deck that absorbed all sound. "They've been broadcasting their locations to the entire universe for thousands of years. They built networks that connect every world, sending signals that can be traced across millions of light years. They might as well have put up signs saying, 'Come eat us.' And we stayed quiet. We stayed quiet because we found the bones of 12 dead civilizations that made the same mistake. They all started broadcasting to the galaxy, thinking they were safe because they were advanced. The Devourers found every single one of them. The ship's sensors detected movement at the edge of their solar system. Not the Devourers, not yet, but the first scout ships from the Galactic Council. They were coming to investigate the message, probably hoping to make first contact with humanity. They're going to be surprised, Park said with a slight smile. They're going to be terrified, Tejo corrected. When they see what we've built while staying silent, they'll understand why we warned them. And when they see what's coming from outside the galaxy, they'll understand why we're breaking our silence now. The captain pressed a button on his chair, opening a channel to Earth Defense Command. This is Silent Guardian. The message has been sent. Begin Phase 1 of Operation Broken Silence. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has been doing in the dark. Dr. Lee So-min stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her hands shaking as she looked at the data. The year was 2089, and she had just made a discovery that would change everything humanity thought about the universe. Director Choi, you need to see this right now, she called across the underground laboratory in Geneva. Her voice echoed off the metal walls of the secret facility that didn't appear on any official maps. Director Choi Woo-jin walked over slowly. He was a careful man who had learned not to get excited about anything too quickly. In his 40 years of running Earth's most classified research project, he had seen too many false alarms. What did you find, Doctor? So-min pointed at the swirling images in the hologram. I've been using the quantum archaeology equipment to look at dead civilizations in other galaxies. Look at this pattern. The display showed 12 different star systems, all empty now except for cold rocks and dead suns. These were all advanced civilizations, Director. They had technology, cities, space travel, but they all disappeared within the same 1,000-year period. Space is dangerous. Civilizations die for many reasons. But look at this. So-min touched a control, and the hologram changed to show energy readings. Before each civilization died, their communication signals increased dramatically. They were all talking to each other, sending messages across space, building bigger and bigger networks to reach farther distances. Choi studied the data more carefully. The pattern was clear. Each civilization had started broadcasting more, and more signals into space right before they vanished completely. You think something was listening to their signals? Not just listening, tracking them, following the signals back to their source. So-min's voice dropped to a whisper. Director, I think something hunts civilizations that make too much noise in space. Show me the evidence. So-min changed the display again. Now it showed the path of destruction moving through the galaxies, always following the strongest communication signals. Whatever these things are, they move from galaxy to galaxy. They find the civilizations that broadcast the most, and then nothing. Complete extinction. And they're moving toward our galaxy? Yes, sir. Based on the pattern, they should reach the outer edge of our galaxy within the next 200 years. Choi was quiet for a long time, thinking about what this meant. Finally, he asked, "What do you recommend we do?" We stop broadcasting immediately. No more radio signals searching for alien life, no more messages sent into space. We go completely silent and prepare for war. What if you're wrong about this threat? So-min looked at the holographic graveyard of dead worlds. If I'm wrong, we stay alone, but we stay alive. If I'm right and we do nothing, we end up like them. 160 years later, Captain Nam Ji-woo floated in the observation deck of the most advanced scout ship humanity had ever built. The EDS Phantom Wing existed in multiple dimensions at once, making it completely invisible to normal sensors. Through the quantum viewing screen, she watched something that proved Dr. Lee So-min had been absolutely right. A massive entity was consuming the planet Kethmore, homeworld of a peaceful species that had been sending greeting messages across the galaxy for centuries. The thing eating their world was bigger than most moons, and it seemed to exist partially outside normal space. It cracked the planet like an egg and fed on the molten core. "Captain, Earth Command wants a full report," whispered communications. Officer Song Hee-jin Ji-woo couldn't look away from the horrific sight. "Tell them the Kethmorans never saw it coming. The Devourer used their own communication network against them. It followed their quantum signals right back to their homeworld. The entity finished consuming the planet and began moving toward you, the next star system." Ji-woo's sensors detected similar creatures throughout this region of space, all following communication trails toward populated worlds. How many civilizations have we watched die in the past 50 years? Jiwoo asked quietly. 47 confirmed extinctions, Captain. All of them were species that used long-range communication networks. Jiwoo turned away from the viewing screen. For over a century and a half, humanity had followed Dr. Lee's advice. They had gone completely silent, building their defenses in secret while watching other species broadcast their locations to the universe. It had been painful to watch civilizations die when they could have warned them, but breaking silence would have doomed everyone. Any word from the intergalaxy species? The Galactic Council is still building bigger communication networks. They're planning to connect every inhabited world with quantum entanglement links. They're building a dinner bell for the Devourers. Jiwoo walked to the command station and opened a secure channel to Earth. This is Phantom Wing to Defense Command. The Outer Rim is almost completely consumed. The Devourers will reach the main galactic civilizations within 2 years. Request permission to begin Operation Warning Bell. The reply came back immediately. Permission granted, Captain. It's time to break our silence. Prepare for Phase 1 contact with the Galactic Council. Jiwoo looked back at the empty space, where Kethmore had been just hours before. Humanity's long watch in the darkness was about to end. They had stayed hidden for 160 years, building weapons and defenses while civilizations died around them. Now it was time to reveal themselves and save what was left of the galaxy. The Watchers were about to become warriors. Ambassador Zilneth had dreamed of this moment for her entire life. The crystalline being stood on the bridge of the diplomatic ship Harmony's voice, watching the Sol system grow larger on the main screen. After 300 years of silence, they were finally going to meet the humans of Earth. Approaching Earth's orbital space now, announced the ship's navigator. Still, no response to our diplomatic signals. Be patient, Zilneth replied, her crystal body glowing with excitement. Perhaps they need time to understand that we come in peace. The Sol system looked empty to their sensors, just as it always had. Earth appeared to be a simple world with basic technology, barely capable of space travel. The perfect candidate for peaceful first contact. Ambassador, something strange is happening, called the sensor operator. I'm reading massive energy signatures, but I can't locate the source. Suddenly, space around them twisted and bent like water. Ships appeared from nowhere, sleek vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Dozens of them surrounded the diplomatic craft in perfect military formation. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Yoon Da-hee of the Earth Defense Force, came a crisp voice over their communications. You need to leave this system immediately. Zilneth's crystal form vibrated with confusion. Captain Yoon, this is Ambassador Zilneth of the Galactic Council. We come seeking peaceful contact with your species. I know exactly why you're here, Ambassador, and I'm trying to save your life. The human captain's voice carried an urgency that made Zilneth's entire body resonate with alarm. Our deep space sensors have detected massive gravitational distortions at the galaxy's edge. The entities causing them have been systematically destroying outer rim civilizations for 50 years. That's impossible. Our communication networks would have detected any threat of that magnitude. Your communication networks are exactly what led them here. Captain Da-hee's ship moved closer, and Zilneth could see it wasn't following normal physics. The vessel seemed to exist in multiple places at once, phasing in and out of visible space. Every long-range transmission your species send, every quantum communication relay, every subspace message creates a trail they can follow. We've been watching them work their way through the galaxy, consuming every civilization that broadcasts its location. More human ships decloaked around them. Hundreds of vessels equipped with technology that made the Galactic Council's finest warships look like children's toys. How long have you been preparing for this? Zilneth asked, her voice barely a whisper. Since 2089. The day we discovered that staying quiet might be the only way to stay alive. Da-hee transmitted data files to the diplomatic ship. Zilneth watched in horror as the information showed the systematic destruction of 47 civilizations over the past 50 years. Each one had been consumed by entities that defied understanding, creatures that existed partially outside normal space and fed on the energy of entire worlds. We've been watching you die, one species at a time, Dahi continued. We wanted to warn you, but breaking our silence would have doomed everyone. These entities are drawn to large-scale electromagnetic activity. The more a civilization broadcasts, the faster they're found. You've been protecting us without our knowledge. We've been preparing safe zones throughout the galaxy. Hidden bases, evacuation routes, defensive positions. We hoped we'd have more time before they reached the core worlds. On the diplomatic ship's screens, more data flowed in. Zilneth saw evidence of human colonies throughout the galaxy, invisible settlements that had been established in secret over the past century. Each one was equipped with technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Your species appears primitive to our sensors, Zilneth said, trying to understand. How is this possible? We wanted to appear primitive. Every signal we might have sent, every technology we could have displayed, would have been a beacon for the Devourers. So we developed our civilization in complete silence, using quantum stealth technology to hide our presence. Captain Dahi's ship transmitted more tactical data. The display showed massive entities approaching from intergalactic space. Things so large they used planets as stepping stones and consumed the energy of stars to fuel their movement. They'll reach the core worlds within months, Dahi explained. Your communication networks have given them a perfect map to every inhabited system in the galaxy. We need to evacuate your people to the safe zones we've prepared. How many of, you are there? Zilneth asked. Enough. We've been building our forces for over a century while staying completely hidden. Every human settlement, every military base, every defensive position exists in folded space that your sensors can't detect. The ambassador looked at the tactical displays showing human fleets positioned throughout the galaxy. There were thousands of ships, all equipped with weapons and defenses that seemed impossible. Why reveal yourselves now? Because hiding won't protect anyone anymore. The Devourers have found the galaxy, and now we need every species to survive what's coming. But first, you need to shut down every long-range communication system you have. Immediately. Zilneth felt her crystal matrix resonating with fear and gratitude. You stayed silent to protect us. We stayed silent because we learned that sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them think they're safe. But silence won't work anymore. The war that's coming will require everyone to fight together. The human ships began moving in, formation around the diplomatic vessel, escorting it toward coordinates that didn't appear on any galactic map. Welcome to the real galaxy, Ambassador. The one where humanity has been standing guard in the darkness for 3 centuries. The voice that suddenly filled every communication device across the galaxy was calm, clear, and completely unknown. On 1,000 different worlds, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen to words spoken in perfect translation for each species. Citizens of the galaxy, this is Admiral Kang Seo-jun of the Earth Defense Force. For 312 years, humanity has maintained complete radio silence to avoid detection by entities we call the Devourers. This silence ends now because hiding is no longer possible. On the crystal homeworld of Velthara, the Crystalline Communion's High Council sat in stunned silence. They had never heard of humans before yesterday, and now one was speaking directly to their entire civilization. Effective immediately, all long-range communications must cease. Your quantum networks must be shut down. Core world populations must evacuate to coordinates we are transmitting to your governments. This is not a request. In the war chambers of the Kresh Empire, General Thakmor slammed his fist on the command table. Who dares give orders to the Kresh? But even as he spoke, his tactical officers were studying the data streaming into their systems. The coordinates being transmitted showed evacuation routes and safe zones that hadn't existed on any map yesterday. Admiral Kang continued his galaxy-wide broadcast from the bridge of the EDS Retribution, humanity's most advanced warship. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets that had been hidden throughout the galaxy for decades. For 57 years, we have watched the Devourers consume outer rim civilizations. We have prepared defensive positions, evacuation routes, and countermeasures while allowing you to believe you were safe. That time is over. Commander Bei Su-jin, his operations officer, monitored responses from across the galaxy. Sir, The Saurian Republic is requesting verification of our authority. The Crystalline Communion wants to know how we access their secure networks. The Kresh Empire is, well, they're threatening to attack us. What about the evacuations? Surprisingly, most species are following the evacuation routes. Fear is a powerful motivator. Through the ship's dimensional viewing ports, space began to distort. Massive shadows moved between the stars. Entities so large they bent light around themselves. The Devourers had arrived at the galaxy's edge, and they were moving fast. Sir, sensors are detecting 47 separate Devourer constructs entering the outer rim, reported Lieutenant Cho Minwoo from the tactical station. Each one is the size of a small moon, and they're following the communication trails left by the galactic networks, just as we predicted, Kang replied grimly. All units, this is Admiral Kang. Operation Broken Silence is now active. Show these things why Earth stayed quiet for so long. Across the galaxy, space began to twist as human ships decloaked from their hidden positions. On the mining world of Drakmor, Captain Lee Haiwan's fleet emerged from dimensional folds to begin evacuating the population. The miners had never seen ships that could phase in and out of reality. This is Captain Lee of the Earth Defense Force, she broadcast to the confused aliens below. We're here to get you to safety. Board the evacuation transports immediately. We don't understand, replied the mining supervisor. Who are you? Where did you come from? We've been here for 30 years preparing for this day. You never saw us because we didn't want to be seen. The evacuation proceeded with military precision. Human ships that had been invisible for decades suddenly revealed themselves, each one equipped with technology that seemed impossible. They used dimensional manipulation to compress space, allowing them to evacuate entire populations in hours instead of days. On the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Commander Velthak watched in amazement as human warships engaged the first Devourer construct to reach the inner galaxy. The battle was unlike anything he had ever seen. Lieutenant, are you recording this? He asked Krixtal. Yes, sir, but I don't understand what I'm seeing. The human ships are fighting in multiple dimensions at once. They're using weapons that manipulate fundamental forces. The Devourer construct was a nightmare made real, a massive entity that existed partially outside normal space, consuming matter and energy to fuel its growth. But the human ships were matching it, using technology that bent the laws of physics. Captain Park Ji-hoon commanded one of the human vessels in the battle. Target the entity's dimensional anchor points, he ordered his weapons officer. If we can destabilize its connection to normal space, it won't be able to feed. Firing dimensional disruptors, replied Lieutenant Kim So-young. The weapons struck the Devourer construct, causing reality to ripple around it. The massive entity began to phase in and out of existence, its feeding process disrupted. Direct hit. The construct is losing cohesion. But even as they celebrated this small victory, sensors detected dozens more Devourer entities moving through the galaxy, following the communication trails that connected every inhabited world. Admiral Kang received reports from human fleets across the galaxy. Sir, evacuation of the Veltharan core worlds is 60% complete. The Saurian Republic has successfully relocated to Safe Zone 7, but the Kresh Empire is refusing to abandon their homeworld. Their choice, Kang replied. We can't save people who won't let us save them. On his screens, the tactical situation became clear. The galaxy's communication networks had created a perfect map for the Devourers, leading them directly to every populated system. But humanity's 3 centuries of preparation were paying off. Their hidden fleets were engaging the enemy across multiple star systems, buying time for the evacuations. Sir, message from Earth Command. They're asking if we're ready for Phase 2. Kang looked at the display showing Earth's position, still hidden, still protected by humanity's most advanced defenses. Tell them we're ready. It's time to show the galaxy what we built while we stayed silent. Captain Han Sora felt her ship shake as reality bent around them. The EDS Quiet Thunder was fighting something that shouldn't exist, a Devourer construct the size of a small moon that fed on planets like candy. Through her ship's impossible viewing screens, she could see the last evacuation transports from Kepler Station racing toward the jump points. Captain, hull damage at 60%, called Lieutenant Oh Min-jun from the engineering station. The dimensional shields can't take much more of this. How many transports are still out there? 11, ma'am. All carrying families from the outer colonies. Sora looked at her tactical display. Her fleet had started with 30 ships. Now only 6 remained, all fighting an enemy that consumed matter and energy as easily as breathing. Around the galaxy, she knew similar battles were happening. Human, fleets dying to protect species that had never known they needed protection. We hold the line until every last transport is through, she ordered. The quiet thunder twisted through folded space, firing weapons that manipulated the basic forces of the universe. But the Devourer construct kept coming, reaching out with tendrils of pure destruction that could crack moons. Captain, the last transport just made the jump, Min-jun reported. All civilians are safe. Sora nodded. Her job was done. All ships? This is Quiet Thunder. Mission accomplished. You may withdraw. Ma'am, what about us? Our engines are too damaged to make the jump. Go. That's an order. She watched her remaining ships disappear into dimensional folds, leaving her alone with the monster. Sora opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. This is Captain Han Sora. Kepler evacuation complete. All civilians saved. Quiet Thunder will not be returning home. The reply came back immediately. Understood, Captain. Earth remembers. Far away on what remained of Earth, Admiral Kang Seo-jun stood in the ruins of Geneva. The city had been transformed into humanity's final command center, buried deep underground and protected by shields that could stop asteroids. Above ground, the Devourer Prime entity was using Jupiter as a stepping stone toward Earth. Sir, all outer system defenses are gone, reported Captain An Ji-hoon. Luna Base went offline 18 minutes ago. Mars defense grid fell an hour ago. Status on the dimensional cannon? Charging, Admiral. But sir, using it will tear a hole in local space-time. Earth won't survive the backlash. Kang looked at the evacuation status displays. Ships were still leaving Earth's surface, carrying the last volunteers who had stayed to operate the planet's defenses. How many people are still on Earth? 43 million, sir. All volunteers who chose to stay. The Admiral walked to the main viewing screen, looking up at the sky where something impossible was blotting out the stars. The Devourer Prime entity was so massive, it had its own gravity field. It had consumed entire star systems to fuel its journey to Earth. Sir, we could evacuate you and the command staff, Ji-hoon suggested quietly. No, Captain. Someone needs to fire the cannon manually. Besides, Earth has been humanity's secret for 3 centuries. It's fitting that we make our final stand here. Above them, the surface of Earth began to crack as the Prime entity's gravitational field pulled at the planet, but humanity's defenses held. Dimensional shields that had taken decades to build kept the world from breaking apart. Admiral, incoming message from the evacuation fleets. Put it through. The voice belonged to Captain Yoon Da-hee, now commanding the human survivors scattered across hidden colonies throughout the galaxy. Admiral, the evacuation is complete. All remaining human populations are safe in the prepared zones. Sir, it's been an honor. The honor was mine, Captain. Remember what we learned. Some silences are worth keeping. Kang turned to the weapons station. Captain An, fire the dimensional cannon. Yes, sir. The weapon that humanity had built in secret beneath Geneva fired a beam of pure destructive force that existed in 11 dimensions at once. It struck the Devourer Prime entity and began tearing it apart at the quantum level. But the backlash was immediate. Reality cracked around Earth like broken glass. The planet's dimensional shields held for exactly 14 seconds before failing completely. 5 years later, Ambassador Zilneth stood in the memorial station that orbited where Earth used to be. The crystalline being looked at the wall of names. 43 million humans who had died protecting a galaxy that hadn't known it needed saving. Captain Park Jun-ho approached the memorial. He was one of the few human survivors from the Sol Defense Fleet, now wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Defense Force, an organization built from the ashes of humanity's sacrifice. The outer colonies want to rebuild the communication networks, he said quietly. Zilneth's crystal form resonated, with sad harmonies. What would Admiral Kang have recommended? Local networks only. Short-range connections between nearby systems, nothing that reaches beyond the galaxy's edge. We learned that some conversations are worth having, and some silences are worth keeping. Around them, ships from dozens of species worked together to build something new. The galaxy's communication networks were gone, but the species were alive. They built smaller, quieter systems that couldn't be tracked across vast distances. The humans saved us all, Zilneth said. The humans showed us that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use it, Junho corrected. They could have announced themselves centuries ago, could have shared their technology, could have built an empire. Instead, they stayed quiet and prepared for a war the rest of us didn't know was coming. In the memorial's central chamber, an inscription glowed with soft light. We stayed quiet so you could keep talking. We spoke up when silence was no longer enough. The galaxy's new age began not with grand announcements, but with whispered thanks, and the knowledge that true guardians protect not by being seen, but by ensuring others never need to know they were in danger. Humanity's gift to the galaxy hadn't been their advanced weapons or their dimensional technology. It had been their wisdom to understand that some things are more important than glory, and sometimes the best way to save everyone is to let them think they saved themselves.